I've been silent, love, not because I've run out of things to say, but because the words swelling inside me feel too raw, too luminous, to throw casually into the air. Even now, as I sit with this letter trembling between my palms, every syllable seems to radiate with the pulse of 1,000 unspoken moments. You might have noticed how I've drifted into quieter waters, how I linger in the spaces between your sentences, how I study the curve of your shoulders as though charting a constellation I'm terrified of losing sight of. It isn't random. I'm holding my breath because I sense the tide shifting beneath us, pulling at the foundation we once called certain, and I don't want a single careless word to push us farther from the shore we both promised to reach. I know you feel it too. It hangs in our apartment like humidity before a summer storm, this buzzing, breathless anticipation of something unnamed. In the soft glow of lamplight, I catch your gaze sliding away from mine, lingering on some invisible question that tightens your jaw. Your laugh still rings bright, yet lately it sounds as though you're performing a song whose lyrics you've half forgotten. When our fingers brush in passing, I still feel the electricity that first lit every cell in my body, but the spark flickers now, like a candle struggling against the gust you pretend not to notice. I see the way you hesitate before answering simple questions, how your phone becomes an anchor you clutch to avoid drifting into conversations that might reveal too much. I recognize the silence in your sighs, the ones you release only when you think I'm out of earshot. Please know, my noticing isn't an accusation. It's a testament to how deeply I've memorized you. Your smallest shift registers like thunder in my chest. And yet, for weeks I've been back my instinct to name what feels different, convinced that naming it too soon would fracture the fragile shell of peace we're both pretending still fits. Instead, I have watched, waiting for you to claim the truth first. I wanted you to step forward with whatever is weighing on your spirit, to trust that I could hold it without judgment. But I also understand the vortex that opens inside us when our hearts question their own compass. It can paralyze even the most courageous soul. So I stopped pressing. I retreated, not out of indifference, but out of reverence for your process. My retreat was an offering of silence, a sanctuary where you might sort your doubts without the pressure of my pleading eyes. I remember when uncertainty felt impossible between us. We were a wildfire of confessed dreams, staying up until dawn with no fear that the light would expose contradictions. We shared everything, our crooked childhood stories, the private ache of old scars, the outrageous plans we sketched across napkins in cafes that no longer exist. We spoke like climbers mapping a summit, two bodies roped together, trusting each other's grip on rock and rope and sky. Now, those hours replay in my memory like a film whose ending has been misplaced. I breathe them in to remind myself that clear skies are possible, that they once spread effortlessly above us. But memory alone cannot sustain a future. Eventually, we must decide whether to continue ascending or admit we've lost the trail. Lately, I've caught myself rehearsing calamity. I imagine pages of our story scattering in the wind, words bleeding into damp soil, a narrative uprooted before its climax unfolds. I picture mornings without your coffee-stained grin, evenings where the echo of your footsteps never crosses our hallway. I imagine what will become of the half-read books we promised to finish together, the playlist we curated for a road trip we haven't taken yet, the inside jokes that only make sense in the intimate dialect we crafted. Each scenario guts me, yet I force myself to look, because I'd rather confront the shadows than pretend they don't skulk at the edge of our lamplight. Still, a louder vision fights back. In it, I see us sitting side by side, knees touching, hearts exposed like manuscripts laid open for mutual annotation. I see you naming your fears in a voice that quavers but refuses to break. I see me listening without interrupting, absorbing each confession the way dry earth drinks first rain. I see questions unraveling into revelations, revelations weaving into understanding, understanding crystallizing into renewed promises. There's trembling. Of course, healing is never sterile. But there is also a warmth like sunrise seeping through the cracks. In that vision, we emerge, not unscarred, but stitched together with threads of gold that make the wound sacred and strong. I can't script your part, love. Your truth must come uncoerced, else it isn't truth at all. So I remain here, near enough for you to reach, far enough that you need not fear entanglement, holding space for whatever story you need to tell when your courage catches up to your heart. My silence is neither punishment nor passive aggression. It is a circle of stillness, an invitation for clarity to land softly between us. Because I've learned that sometimes the most loving act is to step back and let the other wander, trusting the bond won't snap under the weight of exploration. Yet silence has its price. Every night, as the stars puncture the velvet of the city sky, my mind runs anxious calculations. How many more unasked questions can we survive before the ledger tips into the red? At what point does restraint morph into resignation? I replay our last real conversation, the one where our eyes brimmed with possibilities, and I can't find the moment the horizon dimmed. Maybe it was gradual, like dusk stealing daylight one shade at a time. Maybe we both became so busy surviving our separate storms that we forgot to check if the roof we built together still held. I am not blameless in this drift. I, too, nurture doubts in secret gardens, watering them with late-night worries instead of sharing the work of pruning them with you. There are questions only you can answer, but there are truths I must assert for myself. I love you. Not with the fragile fervor of infatuation, but with the steadfast devotion forged in shared griefs and small miracles. I love you enough to fight for a future that expands beyond this fog. I love you enough to face the possibility that you might choose a different road, even if it fractures me. Because real love, the kind that stays honest when the fairy tale sheen fades, refuses to cage the beloved. It offers freedom, not shackles. So if your heart tells you our paths diverge, I will unclasp our joined fingers and bless your journey, trusting that both of us deserve a love that feels certain. But if your uncertainty roots in fear rather than absence of feeling, if you still glimpse our future glowing somewhere beyond these clouds, then let's talk. Let's empty the vault of assumptions before they calcify into verdicts. Tell me what feels heavy in your chest. I'll hold it with you. Tell me which dreams you've quietly buried because you feared they clashed with mine. We'll exhume them together and see if they can coexist. Tell me where I failed to meet you in your need. I'll learn new ways to show up. We've both evolved since the day our eyes first mirrored the same spark. Growth inevitably shifts the geometry of love. But shifting doesn't have to mean shattering, if we're brave enough to keep translating our hearts in real time. I'm not asking for perfect harmony. I'm asking for authenticity. If the melody of our relationship has gone flat, let's retune the instruments rather than discard the entire symphony. Discomfort can be a doorway to deeper intimacy if we step through it together. I promise to listen without armor, to resist the reflex to defend and instead seek to understand. I promise to bring my whole self, scars and all, because transparency breeds trust. And I promise to honor your pace. If you need a single conversation or a series of slow revelations, I'll meet you there, as long as we keep the dialogue alive. Perhaps you worry that speaking your doubts will break me. Hear this. Vulnerability does not scare me anymore. What terrifies me is the silent erosion of a love too brave to die quickly, but too suffocated to thrive. I would rather weather the storm of painful truths than suffocate beneath a blanket of polite avoidance. Pain acknowledged can heal. Pain ignored metastasizes. So rip off the bandage if you must. I'll grit my teeth, but I'll also thank you because honesty is the only real medicine for a wound this deep. Remember the vow we made the night we first called each other home? We promised to choose curiosity over assumption, to greet each obstacle like a teacher, to let our love be a chrysalis for becoming. This moment is an invitation to honor that vow. The caterpillar cannot fathom the sky until it surrenders to transformation in the dark. Maybe that's what this season is. Our shared cocoon, aching and uncertain yet pregnant with the possibility of wings. The question is whether we will emerge wingtip to wingtip or flap toward different horizons. Either outcome demands truth. I confess I'm weary of inventing explanations each time your voice dims or your hugs feel distracted. I'm tired of scrolling through old photos to remind myself that the joy captured there wasn't a mirage. I crave the relief that floods a heart once confusion is named aloud. Even if the answer is hard, clarity is mercy. In its light, we can mourn or rebuild. Both require the ground of truth beneath our feet. Know this too. I see your goodness still. I notice the quiet ways you reach for me, folding my blanket when I doze on the couch, saving the last slice of my favorite cake, pausing whatever you're watching when you hear me stirring from a nightmare. Your love language hasn't vanished. It's simply speaking softer, perhaps waiting for permission to roar again. I hold these gestures close, proof that beneath the hesitation, your heart remains tender toward mine. So here's my ask, etched in the simplest lines I can muster. Talk to me. Not tomorrow or next week. Talk to me when you feel even an ounce of readiness, whether that's minutes after this letter finds your hands or at dawn's first light. Your timing matters, but your voice matters more. Let it tremble. Let it crack. Let it spill unanswered questions across our kitchen table. I will be there, palms open, willing to sift through every shard until patterns appear. If tears come, let them. They irrigate the soil where understanding grows. And if you need solitude first, say so. I can survive the space as long as it's filled with intention, not avoidance. Give me a horizon to aim for, a date, a time, so my heart isn't left pacing corridors of indefinite waiting. I'll spend that interval nourishing the parts of me that will meet you whole, not hollowed by guesswork. As I finish this letter, dawn crimsons the sky outside our window, and I'm struck by the relentless generosity of morning. No matter how bruised the night, daylight arrives, offering fresh canvases for whatever story we choose next. I believe in us enough to imagine a sunrise where we stand together, fingers interlaced, reflecting on how this very silence became the furnace that refined our bond. But belief alone cannot build bridges. Words must follow, anchored in truth and propelled by choice. So, my love, feel the weight of my quiet as the shape of my devotion, heavy, substantial, waiting. When you're ready, meet me in the stillness between heartbeats, and let's decide together whether to step forward side by side or let the paths unwind. Whatever you choose, thank you for every memory etched into my marrow. They have made me kinder, braver, more alive. If this is the midpoint of our epic, let's turn the page with open eyes. If it is the final chapter, let's write the ending with courage and grace. I await your truth in all its messy, magnificent wholeness.